All right, so I'm going to tell a little story about how I became the authority on real estate marketing implementation. All right, we know a lot about marketing, and where people fell short is the implementation. So I'm going to tell a story about how this all came to be, how this book came to be. I'm going to talk about how my courses came to be, some of the webinars. I'm just going to tell a story about how I got into real estate so people can understand. All right, so I'm going to do a screen share. There you go. That is my screen share. And I just want to share what happened, and I want to make this relevant to you. Like, why does this even matter? All right. So, before we get started, if you have not purchased a copy of the book, you can get it online for only $4.97, and you should see a QR code flashing on your screen. You can scan that QR code, and it should take you directly to the website, and you will get an electronic copy of the book. If you want a physical copy, all you have to do is purchase one of the upgrades on the site, and you will receive a physical copy of the book. All right. And more about that and how that works is on the website. You can visit the website, scan that QR code, or visit what you see on the screen, remarketingbook.com. That's remarketingbook.com. You can learn all about that there. All right. So let's get started, and let's talk about the story behind ultimate real estate marketing implementation, and how you can build a marketing system that lasts a lifetime and beyond. All right, so the power of storytelling. Why am I telling stories? I used to despise when people come and tell stories, and then eventually I learned from my coaches and my mentors that we have to tell stories. It's important. It helps people understand stuff better, right? We get into things as experts, right? You became an expert likely in real estate, and now you know a bunch of jargon and technobabble and all this technical stuff. And most people that you serve will not really understand what that is. You're going to need to have it broken down into simple terms, as simple as possible. You're going to need to do. And that's what's going to help separate you from everyone else. So, the power of storytelling. The most powerful person in the world is a storyteller. And this is a quote that I saw from Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs is a highly important, highly influential person because he was a good storyteller. He was a great leader, right? Built a great company, helped build a great company, highly influential, whether you like him or not. Next, sometimes reality is too complex. Stories give it form. Storytelling is the most powerful way to put ideas into the world today. Nothing sticks in your head better than a story. Stories can express the most complicated ideas in the most digestible ways. All right, so these are 4 quotes around stories, and I just want you to understand why I'm telling a story and why you should adapt to telling stories in your business as a service provider. All right, so here is my story. It started, right? I don't want to take you all the way back, but this is important. It started in retail. I was going to school. I was in school for computers, and no, I was working this job. I was working Pathmark, and the people were yelling at me. This company has since gone out of business. They were yelling at me. That you get irate customers if you work customer service or you've been, to retail places. These people don't get paid a lot, right? It was the job I had, though. It's what I had to do. I was about 19. People would just yell at me for reasons beyond my control sometimes. They would yell because the price was wrong. They would yell because they had a bad day at work and they needed to take it out on someone. They would just yell and take their agitations and frustrations out on us, the workers. And I didn't appreciate that. However, I had to sit there and I had to take it. And I call it retail ridiculousness because it was ridiculous, the stuff that I had to bear and go through just because other people were having bad days or were unsure of themselves, upset, angry, etc. So with all of that, I said, you know what? I don't appreciate this, and I need to change jobs. I need to get me a new job. Got me a new job, right? At the time at Pathmark, I was going to school. I decided to go to school so I can get me a new job. The thing that made the most sense to me was to get a computer degree. It's what everyone was talking about. So I had this friend named Abdul, and he was like, yo, guess what, man? If you go to this school, they give you a free trans pass. And I was like, okay, I'll go. Right? I was like, I'll go. I'll go get the free trans pass. He was like, they even give you free laptops. I was like, okay, I'll go. And Abdul was excited to get the items, but I was excited to go get the education. So I had to play like a little bit, fake a little bit, like, oh yeah, I'm excited to go. I was like, I wanted to go. I wanted to go get that education. The computer, the transpass, that stuff that Abdul was talking about, those were bonuses. So I was going to school, and it was for computers. I got a computer degree, right? A computer associate's degree. And during school, I almost dropped out a couple of times, but there were some teachers there that believed in me, and they encouraged me to keep coming back and doing what I needed to do. I eventually graduated the school. Eventually graduated, and I had my degree. I was like, I'm going to go conquer the world. And I went out to the world and I tried to conquer the world. And guess where I ended up at? Not an IT job. So I went to school for computers, technology, and IT, and I did not get the job. I was like, what the hell is going on? I'm supposed to, I have a degree, and I'm supposed to get like hired like instantly. And even the school, they have like a job assistance program, right? I was even working for this famous company. Eventually, I interned with this famous company, WHYY, and I still couldn't get a job. So because I had retail skills, I was like, you know what? Let me take my retail background and my retail experience, and let me see if I can at least get a job doing something retail based or customer service. Let me try that at least. And I did that, and I eventually came across this job. This place, the name of the place was called RTI. And they had a customer service position open where you would take phone calls, or you would make phone calls to people to people for to collect their insurance because they've been to the emergency room. So that was the job that I ended up with. Still not in IT, but I'm like, okay, maybe I'm close. I'm typing on a computer. Let me just do that for now. Eventually, right? I did so well at that job. I got a promotion like within a month. Within a month, I was promoted at that retail job because I figured out the system. I was like an IT nerd. I figured out the system, and I could always make my numbers look really, really great, right? After a while, right, maybe a year, maybe 2 years, I can't remember exactly, but an IT job opened up at this same exact company. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to apply for that job. And because I had a good track record and I was doing everything that I was supposed to do with the retail job, they gave me good references. And I applied for this new IT position. I applied for the IT position. I came in. I was doing everything that I could do. I was helping. I was building. I learned everything, right? Typically, the way I work is I'm very, very quiet. I'm learning and I'm observing. I'm absorbing everything. And then eventually, I start to speak or insert myself or assert myself and give suggestions and inputs and make things better. So I went in, I learned everything that I could. Then it was time to start implementing, inserting, asserting, and I start doing that. When I start doing that, right, I was learning some, and it wasn't that complicated. I was learning some really good stuff. And my intent and my mindset the entire time was, oh man, they're gonna love me for everything that I'm doing. I'm doing so great for this company. They're gonna love me. They're gonna promote me because I'm doing so great. But that was not what happened. You see the quote at the top? Just fucking do it. That was directly what was said to me from my IT manager. I'm not going to say his name because he had some frustrations. I understood, right? I empathize with him. I understand he was going through stuff. I understand that he was a little bit insecure. He didn't appreciate some of the stuff that I was doing, even though it wasn't all a negative thing. So there was eventually tension started to build, and I didn't appreciate it. So I was like, you know what? Something has got to change. I met this guy named Mike. He used to always say, "Do you read books?" Mike's a really close friend, and I was like, "No, I don't read books. I just read articles on the internet." Right? And he'd be like, "Well, that's not the same thing." And I'm like, "I mean, it is. I read some articles." And I don't know how I came across this book, but eventually I did. I came across this book. This was one of the first books I read. I was like, "Damn, you know what? Mike is right. He has a good point." Reading articles, watching videos is not the same as reading books, no matter what people say. It's not. It's not. Reading books, you pick up things, you pick up, you become, just book readers generally become smarter. They're more invested, they're more serious, right? And this is a big part of the reason why I do what I do with books, because they're important. Okay, where anybody says, book readers, they're typically smarter, right? Some of the most successful people, they read books. They read books. So I read this book, Power, 48 Laws of Power, and inside of that book, the first law, right, is structured in a fashion of laws. The first law in that book: never outshine the master. I learned that I was mistakenly outshining the master, who was the manager that yelled at me. I was outshining him because of my talents. I was a young talent. I was doing great. I was fast. I was quick. I was agile. I was smart. I didn't have more experience than him, but I was outshining him. Mistakenly, unknowingly, ignorantly, I was outshining this guy. And I was like, you know what? If people are going to be like this because I'm helping them build their business, their departments, and making them look good, I can't stay here. I cannot stay here. That doesn't work for me. I want to go somewhere where I'm appreciated for bringing talent, skills. And where can I go to do that? So naturally, like, you know what? Probably only myself. That's what I thought. It could be correct or incorrect. I'm not exactly sure. But I began to do research, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to transition out of this because this is toxic. I don't want to be here. Then I came across this book. Read this book, digested that book, and I was like, wow, you know what? The key to wealth is real estate. Robert Kiyosaki. The key to wealth is real estate. I read that book, and I eventually learned that I needed a mentor. Inside of the book, he said, go get real estate education. I had all the education I needed, and I was like, you know what? Now it's time for me to get a coach or a mentor. Now it's time for me to get a coach or a mentor. And what can I do to get that coach or mentor? So I'm going to pause real quick. This is me and Robert Kiyosaki. I have a good friend. His name's Carlos. And he forced me, right? I had to do a speaking engagement in Miami, in Florida. And Robert Kiyosaki was in Miami, Florida. He's like, we're going to this event because Robert Kiyosaki's there, and George Gammon and some of the people. And I was like, okay, I mean, I'm going to be down there, so we might as well go together and figure it out. I would have never had the opportunity to meet Robert Kiyosaki, take a picture with him, do this stuff if it wasn't for Carlos. So I just wanted to shout him out. I appreciate that. This was an opportunity of a lifetime. So, Robert Kiyosaki, if you're in real estate, you likely know who this is. This is one of the most valuable moments brought to me, right? I just want to say I admire Carlos because he's always trying to find a way to bring value. People will say, oh, I don't have value. I don't have your skills. I don't have your expertise. Those things doesn't matter. You have to try. People value things differently. And this was highly, highly, highly valuable to me because of him. So just wanted to stop there, go off on the rant, but here we go. All right. So $3,000 for a mentor. $3,000 for a mentor. I had this, I was trying to find that mentor, and he gave me his price. That mentor, he eventually, right, these days, he doesn't really appreciate me. He doesn't really like me anymore, but he did have an influence and an impact in my life. And I like to give credit where credit is due. So I went out, and I had this mentor, and he was giving me education here and there, right? When I was broke, I didn't have any money, and I was trying to learn real estate. When I was trying to learn the stuff, he would give me, hey, read this book, come to this call, listen to this, do these different things. I was like, you know what? I really like this guy. He invested in me. Let me see if I can pay for his coaching and mentorship. And he told me his price. It was $3,000. I said, $3,000? I can't afford that. I'm still at the IT job, which I thought was like paying well, but it really was. And it was. But I had other responsibilities, including my children. I had other responsibilities that I had to take care of, and I couldn't keep up. So I had to save up for 2 years just to get this mentor. But I did it. 2 years to save up $3,000, but I did it. And he probably, now that I know, he probably would have taken payments, but I didn't know what that was, right? That's called terms. In a real estate basis, called terms. Let's work out an arrangement so I can get you this $3,000. Maybe I make monthly payments, and maybe I have to pay you $4,000 instead of $3,000. But that's terms. Now I know terms because I have education in real estate. So $3,000 for a mentor. I saved that eventually for 2 years. Went out and I started to learn. And I started to implement what he would teach. He taught me like wholesaling. He introduced me to Ron LeGrand, who is a legend in real estate. I'm excited about, right? I get really excited about Ron LeGrand because I went from some nobody to him publishing the foreword of my book. So I learned about Ron LeGrand from this guy, this mentor. Part of what this mentor would encourage and suggest and coach me to do is go out and network. I eventually met this guy, Nick Tang, who was probably my second mentor, unpaid mentor. And he probably didn't know how much of a mentor he was to me. But I paid a lot of attention to Nick Tang. I paid a lot of attention to him, and I learned a lot from him. A lot from Nick. And I just want to shout him out. He's a good friend now, too. He's a good friend. He does events. We have a pretty decent relationship. Anytime he needs something or vice versa, we reach out to each other. So this is Nick. I first met Nick, and he used to get on stage and he'd say, do it scared. Doesn't matter. That's the best way to do it. I was like, man, how can somebody think like that? How can somebody think like that without being prepared? And he was like, just do it. I was like, okay, that's a cool attitude. I couldn't get over it, but that was a cool attitude. And what you see on the screen, that's him right there. This is Nick that you see. And then you also see him here, like on stage teaching, and he's hosting an event. And at this event, it's kind of small. It's kind of a small event, but I was there, and when I would go to these events, they would set up the rooms, and they would need help setting up. Why? So because I saw that they need help setting up, I would come early so I could help them set up, and I could get to learn from and talk with the organizers of the event. That's us, me, Nick, and some of the organizers, some of the people I've met, right? That's us again. I think that's about a year ago now, maybe not even a year ago. But do it scared. That's like one of the big things that I learned from Nick. I was like, man, this guy is like an expert. He's doing all this stuff. And he was like, I just do it scared. He just does it scared. And you can see here, this confirms. I'm like, you were my second mentor without even knowing that you were. You were my second mentor without even knowing that you were. So my point here is, you might be listening to this. You might be scared to do something. You might be scared to take action. But that's even more reason why you got to do it. You got to get out there and do it. Do it scared. Do it without knowing. You won't know everything. It's not going to be perfect. Go do it. Right? A lot of people already have the education. They're just scared to do it. They're scared to take the action and go implement because they don't want to look stupid. They don't want to lose. You have to, though. Got to get over that. That's the only way you're going to do it. All right. So eventually, right, after learning from Nick, I stuck around and I helped out this other local real estate investor association. I started to attend there, and they asked me, hey, we need help. You show up pretty consistently. What are you good at? What can you help with? I'm like, I can help with the computers, right? Remember, I had the IT job. I can help with the computers. They're like, okay. They accepted that, and eventually they were like, well, we need somebody to represent and be leaders at some of these events. And I was like, sure, I'll do that. And they made me the subgroup leader, right? It's called a subgroup because it's a mini group of the big group. They made me the subgroup leader of the group in West Philadelphia. And when I started being the leader of that subgroup, you can see here on the screen, it's 5 people in this picture, 6 people in total. 2 of them, 1, 2, 3, 3 of them are leader. 4 of them are leaders. 1 is the speaker, and there is 1 attendee. So there were only 5. I say there were only 5, but there were less than 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of them were the leaders. 1 was the speaker, and 1 was an attendee. So only 1 person came to this event. They struggled with marketing. And eventually they asked me to help with the marketing. And I did. And I thought that it was just, okay, it's computers. Sure, no problem. I'll plug the stuff in. They were using Eventbrite and Meetup. It's like, oh, yeah, I can just plug that stuff in if you want me to. And I did that. And eventually that West Philadelphia group that we have, that group grew to the largest subgroup. And they had over 7 groups in Philadelphia. We became the largest group, right? So we went from 5, from a numerical perspective, I want to give you, we went from 5, 6, right? A handful, less than 10 members, to over 100 attendees. We went from less than 10 attendees to over 100 with my help. It's like, you know what? I'm doing something right here. That's what I thought to myself. And eventually, because of my success and because of my progress, they asked me to be a member of their board of directors for technology and marketing. And I say yes. I accept it. That's me at some of these events, right? You can see that there. That's just me. The flop. I'm going a little bit out of order, but before I became a leader, there was this moment, right? And this is where I was talking about Nick. There was this moment where they asked me to speak and introduce people, and I flopped. I'm just telling the truth. I flopped. But I had in my mind what Nick told me. He said, do it scared. So I did it scared, and I flopped. And it was one of the worst experiences ever. I was sweating. I was scared. The attendees, they could tell that I was sweating, scared, terrified, right? And it was at my subgroup that I talked about a little bit earlier. It was in West Philadelphia, where I'm the leader. And I'm that nervous, looking that bad. I flopped, but I did it. And because of that flop, I said, you know what? I can't do this again. That was, how can I improve? And I went out, sought Toastmasters, read the book on public speaking. And eventually, right, I grew to be a better speaker. During being a leader and a speaker of all these events, I was afforded what I like to call the best real estate opportunity yet. And I was afforded that opportunity by this guy. His name is Jay. I met Jay, right? And I talked about Carlos a little bit earlier. I met Carlos, right? I met Jay, and he introduced me to the best real estate opportunity yet, which is, as a real estate agent, eXp Realty. eXp Realty is a virtual brokerage, right? I'm not here to sell you. It's a virtual brokerage. You can do everything that you wanted to do out there in the real world as a real estate professional. You do it all virtually because of this company. That is Connor. He's one of the most influential leaders in our company. But Jay introduced me to this opportunity. I just wanted to give him credit and shout him out. This was one of the best real estate opportunities yet. They have online training, and I would attend those trainings. And eventually one of the teachers left. And they said, we need somebody to teach. Because I was attending that class frequently, they asked if anybody was willing to step up. And I thought about Nick again. Do it scared. So I said, you know what? I'm going to step up and teach. I'm going to do it scared. I'll be the teacher. And this lady on the right, Beth Ellen, I appreciate her because she encouraged me. She said, you take over the class. You're consistent. You're here. You know technology. You know social media. You do it. And she eventually put a bug in Curtis's ear. Curtis is the picture on the left, the man in the middle. And they made me the teacher for the social media mastermind for real estate agents. And then eventually, because of my consistency and my persistence, guess what I did? Along with Bethany, we won Instructors of the Year for this national brokerage, right? Over 80 plus hours of content, right? People teaching several hours of content. And we won. We did it. We did it because I was consistent. I wanted to share that. So, and part of the reason why I wanted to share that is because what I share with you, what I do for you, is real. It's the real deal. It's the real deal. It's not fluff. Because I had that experience in that teaching and I was doing stuff scared and I was consistent, eventually, Vina Jones Cox, right, who you see right here in the picture, she asked me, Jerome, what do you do? Right? I was doing some wholesaling. I was doing it virtually using my IT skills, my marketing skills that I learned. I said, I do virtual wholesaling. She said, would you like to teach or speak for me? And I said, sure. Well, I didn't say sure. I said, what do you want me to? I'm just going to tell what I'm doing. She said, that's it. That's all you have to do. I said, okay, sure. And she eventually invited me to be a speaker at her national event. And here's how the attendees voted. I was part of her real estate investor association mastermind group. And that's where we built that relationship. And that's where she asked me. And she asked me to speak. Here's how the attendees voted, right? The winner is Jerome, right? I was teaching how to generate Facebook leads, real estate leads through Facebook. Thanks to her giving me the opportunity. Since that, I've gone on to take on several speaking engagements. Some of these you see, right? These are some of them. Several collaborations. This is my coach, Darcy. Eventually, when I was doing all of the teaching and speaking, while I was doing that, I was working with a particular company, the one that I mentioned. I was on their board of directors, and they wanted me to do the marketing for them, but they didn't want to pay. Like, okay, how can I prove myself as a marketer that I'm getting results, that I will get results? And they just didn't want to pay me. $1 million company didn't want to pay me. However, they had just paid another marketing company $5,000. They got no results. So I understood, I empathize with their pain, but I can't sit around because you paid a bad company. So I was like, you know what? How can I prove myself as a marketer? Went out, sought coaching, sought education on marketing. And I came across the book, The Ultimate Sales Letter by Dan Kennedy. And I ran through that book like crazy. At the end of the book, he suggested that he had a boot camp running, a seminar, which led to a boot camp, which led to coaching. And I went through that entire process. And the coach there was Darcy Juarez. This is me with Darcy. I think I'm her favorite student. That's what I'm going to say. Maybe not, but I'm going to say that. But she helped me. She was like, you're already doing some stuff, right? I eventually learned. She was like, every business, every person, you need a book. It's like, okay, let me go publish a book. How do I do that? I was already teaching classes. I was already teaching stuff. So let me go publish a book. And I took one of my classes that I was teaching and I just transcribed it. And I eventually wrote a book with the guidance of Darcy's book here. The name of her book is Insider Secrets to Winning a Lead Generation, Writing a Lead Generation Book in 7 days or less. So I wrote that book. I eventually wrote that book and I was like, you know what? When I was part of the RIA mastermind group, RMG, that I was talking about with Vina, she brought in Ron LeGrand. Ron LeGrand is a known entity, right? Well-known entity in the real estate space. Very good with marketing and real estate investing. When he came and he talked to our groups, he told the truth. And I was like, you know what? I love people that tell the truth, that are direct, no nonsense, tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, not going to make you feel good. And I had a lot of respect for Ron. And he said, the problem is none of you know how to market. And he confirmed everything that I thought and knew. He confirmed everything that I thought and knew. Those groups, a lot of the groups are struggling, and Ron LeGrand confirmed it. None of you are marketing. None of you are willing to spend the money on marketing, and that's the problem. And I went out and I told you about that coaching. I spent the money on marketing. I was willing to spend the money and learn and invest in my education and learn how I can market more effectively, even though I was already doing good. I wrote that book, and one of the strategies that they gave me, they said, leverage other people in your industry, other leaders. And I reached out to Ron LeGrand and I said, Ron, would you be willing to write a foreword for me in my book? And he said yes. He said yes. That was it. Because I took the power and the influence of writing that book and I leveraged the networks around me, he said yes. That's one of my favorite accomplishments. Since then, I've been on stages with people like, this is probably one of the biggest celebrities I've been on shared stages with, Kevin Harrington. I was like really excited about that because it's like on TV, right? You know, people get excited, oh my God, TV. But I have a lot of respect for this guy because he's like a legit business owner. But I've been able to share stages with people like that. You see me there. That this was that particular event. It was our shareholders event. I had a lot of fun. I can't remember the number, but thousands of agents there, thousands. And then here we go. Lastly, just recently, January 2023, they spotlighted me as a member again. And if you want to learn more about my story and go to some more details and hear some different angles, go pick up this newsletter. It's called the No BS newsletter. I will also drop a copy for you so you can read it. I'll drop those pages in the resource section, right? Because you're likely a member. If you're reading this, if you're not a member, just go pick up the book, the newsletter. All right. So with that, that is my story. My name is Jerome Lewis, and I just wanted to show you how real estate marketing implementation, the book, the course, the concept, how it all came to be. That's my story. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you on the inside. Bye-bye.